You know who it is, and you know what time it is. Time to piss off some feminists, trad cucks, and whoever don't want to know the truth. Oh well, let's get started. What is going on, gents? It's R.P.M. here, reporting from Mobile Command. Gentlemen, by now, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen that discussion between the husband and wife, and I think their podcast is called Dead Ass or whatever. But the manosphere was set on fire with that conversation. Now, that is literally the marital bait and switch, which ends up leading into a sexless marriage. Now, the guy was very well balanced. He was very even keeled, very logical in his question. And of course, his wife was doing all sorts of mental gymnastics on the topic of monogamy. Now, I want to talk about myself in the meat sack and a little bit of an article that I actually found, which completely breaks it down insofar as, well, the article is called The Consequence of Wives Rejecting Their Husbands. But I'm going to read a little bit from that later. Now let's talk about myself in the meat sack. First off, why do men get married? Now, people will say, well, because you want a family and all that, jazz. No. Let's be crystal clear about this. Men get married to their girlfriends, who eventually become their wives, because of all the dirty, nasty, sexual performance that the girlfriend is willing to do in order to get that man to give her his commitment. End of. So all this married for love and all that stuff, no. Men get married because of all the dirty sexual performances of his girlfriend. And she uses that to say, okay, well, if we get married, then you can do all of this stuff at any time you want. Now, of course, the young man is thinking with his penis, so he's like, okay, cool. Myself included. When me and the meat sack were just boyfriend and girlfriend, all sexual things were on the menu. Now, Chris Rock said in one of his epic stand-ups about how women can't go back financially, but men cannot go back sexually. So yeah, pretty much when a woman is your girlfriend, all sexual activities are on the menu. However, once you say I do, those things will eventually be scaled back. However, with myself in the meat sack, I let her know up front, listen, I have a wild sexual appetite. All right? Now, I'm never going to not want to bang other women on occasion. That's just nature. However, I chose you to be my wife, so I will respect you and I will keep those urges under control. If it comes, I'll say, you know what? I'm a married man. Sorry, can't do that. And we'll keep it like that. But the day you decide, of your own free will to sexually reject me, that is the day that I will go outside the house and get my desires met. She knew this before we got married. And that right there, gentlemen, is key. This is why I'm all about men being crystal clear with the woman that they're dealing with. Because as that discussion between those two showed, women love to move the goalpost. Unless you are crystal clear and you say, look, let's point to this. This is what you said. This is what you agreed to. Right? Yeah, ambiguity is one of a woman's biggest weapons. Oh, we're going to let things just ebb and flow and see how it goes. No. It's honestly sad that in this day and age, you almost need a notarized contract just to deal with the modern woman. That way, she can't have a way to give herself a convenient out when things get a little hot. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to keep focused on the bait and switch, which leads to the sexless marriage. Now, I'm going to call this exactly what it is and what it represents. See, this is something that the overwhelming majority of married men, they will not talk about. They won't. Now, what does the sexless marriage represent? It represents the absolute, complete emasculation of a man. It truly does. It does. There is no worse feeling for a man who is married to his wife to not be able to get even the simplest bit of attention from her, yet still being forced by the gun of the state to still provide for this woman. And he knows in his heart of hearts that his wife, that he is still legally responsible for to provide for, is out with other men, giving her attention and her affection to those men, even though those men aren't doing even a quarter of what the husband is being forced into doing. Yeah, I'm using the word forced because once the marital bait and switch happens, then yeah, at that point, that man is forced to keep providing for that woman because he knows that once he decides to actually try to leave the situation, he's going to be punished. Now, let's not forget, what's his name? Jesse Williams. He's being ordered to pay $40,000 a month in child support. Yeah. Even though he filed for divorce, he wanted to be out of that situation. But yet, he's still being made to pay exorbitant amounts of money. Now, why is that? As we all know, celebrities are what's put out to the public to say, okay, you should follow these models. Now, with Jesse Williams being made to pay $40,000 a month, that serves as a warning to any other man who says, I want to get out of this marriage that I know is loveless and sexless. So here you go. Here's the sacrifice that's meant to keep us regular men in line. Oh, yeah, I bet you didn't think about it that way, did you? No. Now, what the sexless marriage truly is. It is psychological abuse of the highest caliber. Yeah, it is. For anyone who does not think that these men in these sexless, loveless marriages are suffering, you must be crazy. But as usual, our society does not care about male suffering. Why? Because as men, unfortunately, we don't put our money where our mouth is. Women are the consumers. That's why you have the system essentially protecting its investment, which is women, because they know women have a good return on their investment. As opposed to us men, nope. Even though all the negative things that happen to men can be easily explained away. Now, for some woman who would come in and say, well, I'm living in a sexless marriage. My husband doesn't want to have sex with me. I don't care about you. Why? Because we all know that the marital bait and switch, 9 times out of 10, is the wife pulling the trigger. She's the one who's cutting off the sex spigot to her husband. So, yeah, it's far more common for women to do that. While at the same time, that husband who knows that his wife is stepping out on him, he has to literally mentally lobotomize himself to dull the pain. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. See, no one thinks like that because we never had this conversation. And I'm glad that they actually did have that conversation, because now a lot more content creators are talking about this subject. But yeah, that is psychological abuse of the highest level. These guys are depressed as hell. Their own self-value is damn near shattered. And of course, myself, I went through these emotions when me and the meat sack were in a sexless marriage. So eventually, that was when I got my sex doll and called it even. Okay, cool. I can't get even the basic affection from you, not even a hug, not even a cuddle, nothing. And yet I still have to continue to provide for you. You know what? No, I'll just get myself a sex doll, or a Dutch wife, as they call them in Japan. I'll just get that, and, I'll use that as my stopgap. That way I don't have to worry about you. And that was the happiest day I had in a long time when it finally arrived. I actually made a video called Replaced. And it talked about the day that my waifu arrived and she was home. And she asked me, well, what is that? And I told her straight up, your replacement for my sexual energy. Okay? So now that I have this, essentially, you leave me alone. But yeah, I've made it crystal clear that anytime a married man has been put into the sexless marriage category, then yeah, all bets are off. He should go out and get his sexual desires met elsewhere. And we know that wives are cheating way more than husbands. But see, another celebrity, Will Smith, when a husband finds out that his wife has been stepping out on him, society wants men to be trained to act like Will Smith, not retaliate in any way, shape, or form, not go out and get his sexual desires met elsewhere. When your wife pulls the marital bait and switch, you're supposed to just sit there and take it. No. No. But unfortunately, a lot of these older guys will still give into societal shame. A lot of these guys know that if they do speak up, they will be ostracized, which is another reason why married men are pretty much cornered off. They're separated from their own male support groups. That was something that I held on to. My friends, before I married the meat sack, we're still friends to this very day. And one of them, we had a conversation, and he told me that he knows that the meat sack was the only woman that I ever truly loved, insofar as the women that he's known me to have been with over 18 years. And I said, well, what makes you say that? He said, simple. Out of all the women that you've been with that I know of, she's the only one you ever gave a second chance. And it even wasn't because of your kid. He said, that's how I know you truly love this woman. But now that you've completely walked away, now you've reverted back to your old self. And I said, well, yeah. He said, well, I'm glad that you reverted back to your old self. Not because of any hatred or animosity that you have towards her, because I don't even see that. I see complete indifference with you when you talk about her. But, hey, you made your decisions. You tried. And I would never feel bad for her because you actually did try to make things right. So I'm glad you did walk away. I said, well, thanks. But yeah, all in all, I'm going to take a little bit of snippets from this very great column. And it's called The Consequences of Wives Rejecting Their Husbands. I'm going to read a little bit, but of course I'm going to put it in the description box so you guys can read the whole thing. The title, The Consequences of Wives Rejecting Their Husbands. Introduction. Wives, do you know what happens to your husband when he is consistently rejected by you? I am convinced that if you knew what happens to your husband and subsequently to your marriage relationship when you constantly reject him, then you would ensure that you accept him, especially sexually and, of course, within reason. I would like to share with you wives what happens to your husbands when you constantly reject him and how that will eventually affect your marriage. That is a powerful intro, gentlemen. So yes, I would highly recommend you read this whole thing. Now, there are a not insignificant number of wives who literally get off on sexually rejecting their husbands. Why? Because I said that is psychological abuse. They're breaking down their husband to be nothing more than a groveling man-child who's desperate for any sort of attention or affection. Yeah, it most certainly is. But we're not going to call that abuse. Society won't call that abuse. But yet, if a husband so much as raises his voice, oh, that's verbal abuse. If he tells his wife, well, you can't spend this money because we need this for something else, oh, that's financial abuse. Yeah. But the real abuse is the abuse that happens to those men in those marriages, which we refuse to talk about. We refuse. So yeah. If you're a man in a sexless marriage, then you need to go ahead and weigh your options and what you're prepared to be the trade-off. Because whatever decision you make, it will come with a cost. Are you prepared to pay that cost? For me, at first, it was going to the Asian massage parlor. But then I said, you know what? I'll just go ahead and get myself a sex doll and call it even. Either price I was prepared to pay. Now, of course, you're always going to have the guys who say, just get divorced. And I always say to the married men, prepare for your impending divorce. We need more R.P.Ms out there. We need more married men to take the red pill, to see what's really going on, and to have a plan. If you're going to stay there for the kids and play the long game, you need to have a solid plan in place. You have to. All this information is out there. It's readily available. So now there's literally no excuse for a married man to accept a sexless, loveless marriage. At the barest minimum, you should be able to move out. Or if you can't move out, move to another section of the house, ghost your wife, but be crystal clear with her. Since we're in a sexless, loveless marriage, I'm going to get my needs met outside the home. Show her that you can replace her. As the story that I did of the guy who found out his wife was cheating. So what did he do? He went out and was blatant about his stepping out. Sometimes it takes an unconventional method, to get the desired results. And that's the first question. What do you truly want? Do you want to try to reconcile? If you want to reconcile, then guess what? You need to be prepared to put her through hell. Women know that there are more of them than there are of us. There are more men on this planet than there are more women on this planet than there are men. So yes, you can say, you know what? Since we're in a loveless, sexless marriage, I'm not going to hide the fact from you that I'm going to start sleeping with other women. Okay? I'm not going to hide it. So if you want to stop me from doing that, then guess what? The ball is in your court. What actions are you prepared to take to stop me from doing that? Put it on her. Put it on her. Marriage counseling, don't even bother with it. It's a waste of time. You're going to be ambushed. We all know this. So all in all, if you want to prevent your marriage from becoming a loveless one, then yes, you have to be prepared to let her know that she can be replaced. No more hiding it. No more trying to do the whole cloak and dagger sneak around. No. Have an adult conversation. It is what it is. Well, just to recap, what the sexless marriage is, it is psychological abuse of the highest level toward men, meant to literally mentally break him. And what it represents, if it is successful, it represents a completely emasculated man. Gentlemen, don't live like that. You only got one life, so there's no point in being miserable within it. Hey, she's going to leave anyway, So it doesn't really matter. Good husband, bad husband, it does not matter. You'll still be treated the same within the family court. And that right there is the key to all of it. Men would rather be in a loveless, sexless marriage and know that their wife is sleeping around than to actually deal with the family court. Yeah, sick society. But I say, you know what? Fight fire with superior firepower. If you know she's stepping out and you can't go through a divorce, guess what? You do the same thing. That right there will be equality. You're getting your back blown out by other men and I still have to pay for it. So guess what? I'm going to pay for another woman and I'm going to blow her back out. You know, turnabout is fair play. Well, read this long article or column. Let me know what you guys think. And ladies, the power is still metaphorically out. Feminism, the sexual liberation, and the absolute corrupt family court that you use as your ultimate equalizer is going to eventually go out right along with it. And men will no longer be subjected to a sexless, loveless marriage out of fear. That's all I got to say for this one. R.P.M. I am